Welcome, everybody. John Zager, johnzager.com. How is everybody today? I hope you're having a good day. It's a beautiful day here on the eastern slope. Cloudy, pretty warm, in the 50s, I believe, somewhere. And we're supposed to have a nice week coming up. We just got rid of a bunch of snow and cold weather, but that's good. Hopefully it's the end of winter. So we're kind of continuing this little series of podcasts the last 3 days, today being the 4th day, on the pandemic and how are we dealing with that emotionally and what does it look like for our future based on how we think and feel about the stuff that's going on. How are we best going to get through this? And I just wanted to take a little bit of time this morning and talk about how some people flow through life and other people seem to have a resistance to life. I've talked about this a lot over the years, and I've witnessed many people. Having worked in clinical psychology since 68 or 9, I think I started, I've seen people on both sides of this spectrum that they continuously struggle and resist, obstacles and stresses and traumas and different things that happen in their life. And on the same note, I've witnessed people that just flow through life, regardless of the stress, the difficulty, the trauma that they're currently in. And we're kind of in that situation right now with this pandemic. It's an awful, awful thing. And we've lost a lot of lives, both here in the U.S. and worldwide. And it isn't near over by any means. I guess people in different countries, not only the United States, are kind of getting tired and frustrated and a little bit angry at being quarantined, being told they need to stay in their homes and not go out, other than for essential things, gas, food, stuff of that nature. And people are doing it. I mean, they've been doing it for, I wish I would have kept track of how many days we're actually in, but at least the last 2-3 weeks, if not longer, people have been doing that. And it's kind of reached a breaking point. And some of the states, which have not been hit quite so hard by the virus, probably are okay to open, and I believe they have. I think about the lady governor who used to work for Congress. She hasn't ever closed her state. She hasn't ever told anybody to stay in place. Now, their numbers are low. The amount of people that have contracted the virus is low. So the odds of that being a bad decision probably are not going to matter. I like her rationale in that she's trying to say, we need to keep our freedoms and not give them up. She's also sort of indicating that, a lot of people have been told for the past few weeks, you're going to do this, this, and this is how you're going to do it. And there are places that are fining people, arresting people. There was the case of the guy here last week that took his kid or kids out to the park, and he was arrested because it was a non-essential thing he was doing, being out of the house with the kids. And of course, the different people that have been trying to go to church, and they were being fined, I don't know, a few $100s to $1,000 for having attempted to go to church. So her argument is kind of a good argument, but again, she's at a state where the incidence of the pandemic spiking up there in South Dakota right now appears to be fairly low. So here's my conversation today. Do you fit into the category of the people who just flow through life, regardless of what happens, no matter what traumas or stresses or difficulties that you have in life? Or are you in the category of the person who's constantly resisting life, having a difficult time getting through it, regardless of the stresses or the traumas or the difficulties that you're encountering? And if so, whichever side you're on, you're going to be on one side or the other. Why is that? Why is that? And the answer, again, we've talked about this over and over and over again, is it's based on your beliefs and perceptions that you received when you were a small kid, from when you were in your mom's third trimester all the way to age 7, right? There were adults in your life that gave you beliefs on how to do different things, right? You were in theta, right, which is a brain state to where it's like you're hypnotized with your eyes open. And you're a little person, and you're just trying to fill the computer with information on how to get through life. Well, back then, at that time, was so critical because it basically said to you, if you get sick, this is how you get through it, emotionally and intellectually. This is how you're going to acquire a disease or not acquire a disease. A parent might say to you, well, our family has always had diabetes. Everybody in the family has had diabetes. For sure you're going to have diabetes. That's a belief system that a parent is instilling in somebody. So you've gotten information that's been positive or negative in relationship to stress, trauma, disorder, disease, and negative things that just normally occur in our life. There's other parents and adults with their little kids that give them belief systems that everything's going to be all right. You see your mother or your father or your aunt or uncle or grandparents or whoever it happens to be. When you're a little peep, you see them hit a difficult time in their life. Maybe it's financial, maybe it's physical, whatever it happens to be. And you notice that your mom or whoever that person was just goes right on by it. They deal with it, they address it, they look at it, they understand what it is, they don't overreact to it, and they make the changes they need in order to go on to the next step of their life. That gets transferred onto the little kid. The little kid gets out into the real world. They're in their 30, 40, 50, 60s, whatever it happens to be. And Lord forbid a pandemic hits the world. What do they have to pull from? Their beliefs and perceptions that they learned when they were a little kid. All of that stuff goes into your subconscious. You all know this stuff. And the subconscious doesn't judge things good, bad, or indifferent, right? The subconscious just delivers what you're asking for. So if you're having negative thoughts about being in this pandemic, and your thoughts may be, I have no idea, they may be I'm going to die, I'm going to contract it, my immune system is weak, my immune system is strong. If I get it, I know I can get through it. Whatever it happens to be, your subconscious is going to fulfill that thought. And that's the direction you're going to come out on the other side, right? So, if you're struggling in life before the pandemic, this is important, you guys. If you're struggling with life before the pandemic, then you're struggling with the limiting beliefs and perceptions that were given to you as a child. If you were not struggling with life and just flowing through it, day by day, week by week, doing okay, having a good time, some ups, some downs, whatever it happens to be, that means you're not in conflict with your subconscious. You're not in conflict with the beliefs and the perceptions that you acquired when you were a young child. As a result, either of those two things I just said is how you're going to address the pandemic. So here's the way that I have kind of approached it for myself. My beliefs and perceptions, for the most part, are pretty good. They weren't always pretty good. I've had to go in and change some of them because I was in conflict with them and my life was difficult, and some negative results occurred because of that. But as time went on, I got better and better at addressing the limiting beliefs, and I've changed them. And so now I feel like I'm in a stronger position with the current pandemic going on, and I don't feel completely negative about what's going on at all. Here's what I've done, and I've talked to you guys about this 2 days ago, actually. You need to, if you'd like, this is what I've done. I've gone and I've gotten all of these negative, and there's lots of negative opinions out there, especially on the internet. I don't watch TV. I just refuse to do that. I don't listen to the radio because a lot of that stuff is probably not accurate in my mind, right? But I do get on the internet and try to follow that as closely as I can, and there's a lot of negative talk going on about the pandemic and the resulting things that could occur to me as a result of that, based on my age, based on my medical background, based on my immune system, just this, that, and the other thing. And there's a lot of it that's saying, I might be in a high risk category. Okay, that was just one example. So we have on this side of the coin things that I'm hearing that are not real positive about me living in this current day and age and time with a pandemic. On the other side, there's a fair amount, not quite as much information being shared that's really positive, that based on where you came from, what your beliefs, what your perceptions are, based on your amount of information that you have, what's realistic, what's not realistic with your medical background. How's your emotional state? What kind of thoughts are you having? Are you having positive, very clear thoughts about the pandemic, in relationship to yourself? And if so, are you focusing on that, or are you focusing on the negative side over here? What I've done for me, what I've done is I've gone and done research on both sides. And I said, can I find two unrelated areas of research that can validate maybe some of these negative things that are going on? Or can I find two unrelated areas where I can validate the positive stuff that I'm hearing? And then for me, what I need to do is put that decision, that information that I just acquired, that I went out, that I researched, and I put that in perspective to my current belief systems, my perceptions, right? How I view things, how I think, how I act, how I feel, my emotions. And I come up with a manner in which I'm going to handle the pandemic, living in the world that I live in, and how I'm going to address the emotions and the thinking that I have currently. And that's the way that I'm finding myself flowing through the pandemic in a positive, healthy manner. So I've had to, is there still some resistance to the pandemic? Is there some areas that I kind of, don't totally agree with, and I'm a little argumentative about that? Yeah. But for the most part, I took the negative stuff, I took the positive stuff, I researched it, and I took the parts that made sense to me, which were mostly on the positive side that I was hearing, and I put that in relationship to my current limiting belief systems that I have in my perceptions and how I think, act, and feel. And as a result of that, I'm more comfortable, I'm more relaxed, I'm more calm. I don't run around, as you can watch on the internet. You can go most anywhere and you see a lot of outrageous people being pretty boisterous with some fairly negative comments. And you can also watch people interacting with each other in a very negative, destructive manner. So how are you dealing with the stress of all the negative as well as the positive that you're hearing in relationship to your belief systems? I would encourage, for you guys, it doesn't take long. You can either go on the internet and you can follow and listen to all the negative propaganda that's going on out there, right? Or you can go on the internet and listen to all the positive. There is positive stuff out there. The lady up in South Dakota, the governor, there's no reason not to see what she's doing as positive. And everybody in South Dakota is going to have to make a decision for themselves. Is that the right thing for us to do? Now, if she's got her state open, it doesn't mean you have to go out as if nothing's going on in the world. You may want to self-quarantine yourself, regardless of what she's saying. But again, we need to have clear understanding of where we are in relationship to our thoughts and emotions regarding the pandemic. And I think you need to go and research both sides of the coin and then put that together with where your belief system is and then follow that course of action. I really think that will take the stress away. That'll take the anger, the bitterness, all of that negative stuff emotionally can lead to acquiring and upregulating disease and illness at a later time down the road. So anyway, that was kind of my thinking. I've talked about this the last couple of days, and I think it's really important. I've listened to 3 other people doing podcasts and YouTubes that are talking about, what did they have to say on that? Their thing is just the whole idea that collectively people are asking more in-depth questions about who am I, what am I here for, what's my purpose. And I thought about doing a podcast on that along the lines of what they're talking about. They're talking about a heightened consciousness among people. But when I go online, I'm not seeing people really getting along that well. I'm seeing the people down in Florida stock to the beaches and basically say, screw the pandemic, I'm just going to go out here and do this. And I hear other people arguing with those people saying, you're an idiot and you shouldn't be out there doing that kind of behavior. It's too early. Then you have this report that came out this morning from 4 scientists here in the United States. And that's the first thing I opened up my computer to. And they're in there saying, and this is also backed by Bill Gates, who also said the same thing, we need to kill off 1/3 of the population in order for the planet to sustain itself. Let me say that just one more time. Then there's also the report by both Bill Gates and these 4 scientists. And again, Bill Gates is the guy who's paying for the research and the vaccine to keep people alive, we hope. And the report is basically saying that all these people collectively are saying we need to kill off 1/3 of the population of the world in order for the planet to sustain itself. And they were flat out asking, we need volunteers of people to come forward and say they're willing to die. And then you need to take it a step further and say, we know that the virus is synthetic, made in the biochemical warfare lab in Wuhan by China and let out into the public. And isn't that, in a sense, an attempt to kill off a percentage of people, at least in China? I had heard, and again, there's nothing that's accurate. You have to go research. I could never substantiate this, but I remember reading there was 21 million people in Asia that died from this already. So in other words, is this a biochemical warfare deal where we're trying to reduce the population on the planet? I mean, that's a stretch. And then you have these people on the internet like myself that are very good and do really a good job. And they're on there trying to do podcasts and YouTubes around everybody wanting to work together and collectively and give out more love and this kind of thing, and why am I here and how can I help the world kind of thing. I'm just not seeing that. I mean, I understand that's the direction we need to go. Yes, absolutely. I support that wholeheartedly. And the more meditations we can do globally, to alter some of this stuff going on, that's my background. I'm in favor of that. So when I decided to do my podcast this morning, I decided to take it from the standpoint of maybe we better do a little bit more research on both sides, and we better get clear on what messages we're hearing and the messages that we want to hear, and how does that impact our current belief systems and perceptions that we have. So process that stuff, digest it. I think it's all important. I think it's noteworthy that we put a little more work into the pandemic and how we're dealing with our emotions and how we're thinking about what's going to happen next. God bless everybody. Take care of one another, and I'll look forward to talking to you all again real soon. Thanks a lot. See you. Bye.